Hey, TNA fam, how's it going for today? We're back! We back! Again here at the Impact Zone podcast. Alright, so there's been a few rumblings and jumblings going around with TNA of late. We've got some new deals going along the line. And we've got some potential rumors floating about and going along about TNA in a possible partnership. I'm going to talk about the confirmed one first. Now, this was a couple of days ago, but of course, like I said, I don't cover news, or I don't really cover news because it's way too difficult to friggin' cover the news. As soon as you try to cover something 5 minutes later, or you post something rather, 5 minutes later, there's more news or there's more of something and there's something else and something else. And especially when you're on a completely different time zone and in a completely different country and on the opposite side of the world, effectively, it's really tough to keep up with like a lot of this stuff. But anyway, so TNA Wrestling announces a partnership with K&M and All Star Sports and Romano Performance, both starting at Slammiversary. So I don't know what to make of this, but because I'm not huge into some of this stuff, and I'm not going to read through all of this. I'm sure other wrestling YouTubers and TNA YouTubers and podcasters and whatnot have gone through this information and whatnot. So I'm not really gonna pass through it because at this point it is quite old news. I would expect at this point. Only 3 days ago though, but still, I know that a lot of other people have already probably covered this in much more detail and much better detail than I'm going to go into here. So I'm just going to talk about it in general just a little bit. But yeah, it is cool to see that they are getting some more partnerships. More partnerships means more money coming into the company. And even with, like, again, with a lot of these releases or whatever else you want to call them, the parting of the ways with people and things like that, it is just one of those things where it's like, yeah, the company needs to make money. So I can understand that aspect of it. And like I said this somewhere else, I think it was on Twitter. At the end of the day, when WWE releases people, I don't know, I don't think they complain really, but they don't really bat an eye that much. They really don't. They really don't think about it all too much. The first thing that everyone's like is like, okay, well, what's next for them? You know what I mean? So everyone's like hopeful for them in a sense, but it is like very much like, well, whatever, yeah, sure. But you could have seen that coming kind of thing in a sense because they've been there for a long time and they really haven't done anything, and it's really felt like an awkward situation for a long time or whatever else it is, because you don't have somebody again on your roster properly who's just going to be there. You want people on your roster to be like, yeah, you're here, you're going to be you're either our current prospect or you're one of our past prospects that's here to help the newer prospects get over, or a newer prospect that we're looking to get over again. So yeah, that is one of those things of saying we don't really want people here just to be, you know, enjoying some nice catering or you know, just be signed for the sake of being signed. You know, like, we actually want to see people in the ring, in feuds, wrestling, and doing stuff. We don't want to just see people, you know, like, again, not who don't want to be here. We don't want people who go, TNA, whatever, you know, like, blah, blah, blah. If people are going to be like, oh, yeah, maybe, whatever, yeah, sure, I'm open to anything, that's different, or whatever. If, you know, not dismissively, but just like, oh, yeah, well, sure, if they call me and they make me a good offer or whatever else it is and whatnot, hey, I'll go, or I'll see what we can do, you know. So it is what it is. But again, yeah, so, but anyway, right, so I'll get on to the rumors. Now, none of this is being confirmed or whatever, so take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt and even maybe a full, like, shaker of salt or whatever else you want to say. But there are some rumors that TNA is looking to partner with Ohio Valley Wrestling and looking to basically make that its developmental league. First of all, like, in terms of just a partnership, that seems like a good idea in some ways. But then again, like, I think since they released Callahan, and I'm not too sure if, I think his is Professional Wrestling Revolver or whatever it's called. I can't remember. I don't know. I don't know the promotions, dudes. So, excuse me for, and it's all the way in America, dudes. So, like, excuse me for not knowing. I am not over there. So, excuse my lack of ignorance. I mean, if that is what it is whatever. Cool, whatever. But yeah, I don't know, because, like, I don't look these things up and I don't remember because there's so many other things going on. Anyway, I don't know whether Ohio Valley Wrestling is somewhat, well, they've been around for a long time, but are they a sort of rival to Callahan's sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say a wrestling school, but more of a promotion, I guess. I don't know. I mean, in a sense, I guess they'd have to be because they're both in the Ohio kind of area. OVW and, you know, professional. Well, I don't know where Revolver really comes from or what Callahan's promotion is, if it's Revolver or whatever. But yeah, I'd assume so because that's where Callahan's from, and, you know, like, Trey's from there, and he came through, you know, with Callahan and guys like that, and a lot of other people. So yeah, no, I do think that that's somewhat telling that they didn't, or they're not looking to partner with Callahan and his promotion, and whatnot, and that sort of thing, or whatever in that regard. But from a purely, like, business, just like thing, like, OVW used to be a developmental territory in a sense for WWE many years ago. But yeah, like, I don't know when that finished or whatever. I really don't know. But the thing about, like, this is, like, TNA should not need a developmental territory or developmental league or anything like that. I mean, like, realistically, they really don't need that. I shouldn't say that they are a developmental league in a sense, but you're always a developmental league in a sense. You're, like, every place that has talent is developing talent. You know what I mean? So you're always developing talent. So whether you're a quote unquote developmental league or whatever is irrelevant, you know, because you're always developing talent, or you should always be developing talent, and talent should always be developing. So saying, hey, we're a developmental league, or we have a developmental league, like, what for? You don't need one. The whole wrestling landscape should be your developmental league. And if you happen to say, oh yeah, maybe we have a specific partnership with OVW, and, like, we're just gonna, like what WWE ID kind of is, I guess, but I don't know, not really, I guess, but just like, we're gonna send more of our talent over there to OVW that we think have something, and they're gonna work there more so, or more people from OVW are gonna come through to TNA Wrestling, or potentially come through from OVW to TNA. I mean, sure, but, like, you should never commit to anything with anyone, in a sense. Like, that, like, if you lock yourself out of saying, hey, we'll take talent from you, we'll take talent from here, we'll take, like, we don't care, you shouldn't care where talent comes from. You should just be like, is this a person or a talent that we are interested in, and can we make them into our superstar. That's all you should care about. And if this helps you out, then sure, that's great in some ways. But again, I just think that there's a lot going on here which doesn't really make sense to me, because again, like yeah, like why would you need a developmental league? You know what I mean? If you don't think, like, this is very much my perspective on my if you know on me wrestling and whatnot, and other people wrestling. If you don't think that I'm good enough to be on your TV, then why are you giving me a contract? Like, it makes no sense. If you say, hey, we think we see something in you, that's cool, that's great. Thank you so much for that in some ways. But then again, I'm obviously like a little bit sus of that, because like people can say that sort of thing and not really mean it, and just be like trying to, I don't know, not pat you on the back so much, but trying to be like nice, or trying to keep you in line, or whatever else it is, or keep you from going to WWE or AEW or whatever else. And a lot of promotions do that, not just TNA or WWE or AEW or wherever. A lot of people are like that, where it's just like they'll, razz you up and whatever else to your face, but behind closed doors, behind your back, they'll be like, no, they haven't got it, they're not good enough, da 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 da, all this other stuff, yada yada yada. So that's where I'm at with that. I don't think we should be hiring talent and putting them on contract or whatever and saying, oh, but you're not good enough to be on our TV. Go to OVW, go there for 6 more months, a year, 10 more months, 10 more years, whatever else it is, or whatnot. And then maybe when we feel like you're almost there, or basically where we want you to be, we'll give you a call. We shouldn't be like that. We should just be like, is this person basically TV ready? Basically, yes. Okay, cool. Right. Well, that's what we want for our TV ready. That's what we want. Okay, let's talk to that person in that promotion and say, hey, we want to bring in this person. And again, it shouldn't matter from where they hail. It shouldn't be all these people from OVW or whatever are going to get special treatment. They shouldn't, like, obviously I don't think they're going to do that. But, like, again, if you're just saying, hey, we've got a developmental league, well, you don't need one. It makes no sense. The whole indie wrestling scene, the whole wrestling scene that's out there, that exists, is your developmental league. You shouldn't need to be like signing an agreement with somebody and saying, hey, you're going to be our developmental league. You shouldn't need that. You shouldn't need anyone or anything to be your developmental league. I mean, that makes no sense. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't compute, because you're just saying, hey, again, what are we doing? You need to be thinking, okay, well, how does this work? Is this person ready or not? Well, if they're not ready, then let's say, okay, we do want you. We are very interested in you, and we want to hold you from being in AEW or WWE. I think that that's the difference. I think that that's what they actually want. They actually just want to, I don't know whether it's dangling the carrot or whatever else you want to call it in front of people, but it is sort of like that dangling of the carrot sort of thing. Hey, you're here now, so you've got a better opportunity to come and work for us. That sort of thing. But, it's nothing's guaranteed. There's no guarantees in wrestling, That's the thing. But again, just saying, we're going to send you to OVW because we don't think you're good enough. Well, then why did you even give me a contract? If it's a different level of contract, and it's a contract more with OVW, or it's a contract where you say, hey, look, we're interested in this talent. Would you take them up for us and help us or help them get to the next step so that, they're ready to be on our show? that's a difference. And like, I don't know the details because again, this is just rumors and innuendo at this point. So, but yeah, like I just don't see the point, honestly. Like, if you say, okay, OVW, you're gonna be part of our developmental league, or we're gonna give you special treatment, or whatever, or some talent from TNA is gonna come down there specifically. Like they had a partnership with Fourth Rope Wrestling there for a while. What happened with that? Like, you know, and I don't know. So, but I don't really care either that much. But again, like, so it's just like, well, is this what we're doing now? I don't know what we're doing now. I think that there's a lot of like, I don't know whether they know what they're doing with it sometimes, because it is very much like, oh, we're going to try for this partnership. Nah, we've had enough of that partnership. Oh, we're going to try for this partnership. Oh, no. You know what I mean? So, and like some of that is like, well, we had the partnership with AEW, and we had that partnership with New Japan for a little while. And then we still technically got this partnership with WWE, but that's not really doing anything for anyone at this point. So it is very much like, well, what's going on? What's the next step? What's the next stage? And what's next, sort of thing. And I do think, like I said before, there's no point in being like partnered with WWE at this point, at least to me. Like the only thing that would shift my gear a little bit like on that is like Hall of Fame for AJ, you know, so, or whatever, maybe one more match, maybe, who knows. Like it's still not completely impossible or whatever, I don't think, but then again, who knows. But still, I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, I do think that there is like not much point in being partnered exclusively with them. If WWE come knocking at the door, and again, whatever, I don't know about the whole Tessa Blanchard situation. Maybe that was part of that. I don't know. But again, like if there's any issues with AEW or with any other promotion, then that needs to be, you know, cut. You cannot be having these petty rivalries and these petty situations with these other promotions and whatnot. You need to be going, all right, we will work with anyone and everyone. We don't care who you are and where you're from and what you're about. You should be saying, right, we just want the best talent that we can get, and if you have those talent, we're interested in working with you. That is it. We're not like we're not making it like, you know, and maybe it'll still happen, but like I do think it is a bit of a weird situation at times with that. So yeah, I don't know. Like at least these rumors and whatnot for now are like making me scratch my head and making me go, huh? Wait, what? You know, like, could it be beneficial? Absolutely, in some ways, absolutely. But really, like realistically, again, your talent go to a bunch of like indie wrestling, and maybe like you might say, well, this is more of like AEW and WWE and TNA. Like they're all forming these different partnerships with more of these different like smaller entities. So TNA is trying to carve out a partnership with somebody before AEW does, or before WWE does, or whatever else. Well, I guess after WWE did, but before they try to do it again, or whatever else it is. So I don't know the specifics of the WWE deal that OVW had with WWE, but I think they had a deal with Florida Championship Wrestling, or whatever, a place like Florida Championship Wrestling, because like NXT started in Florida and that basically replaced what they were doing down there, and whatnot. So again, like, and that basically sort of took TNA's spot, kind of thing, which realistically they never should have really tried to hold too hard, because again, like, if you're just dedicated to one location and one space, like it really harms you in some ways. That's why I was like against like the whole let's find a studio and let's keep using that one studio and let's go there every week and every like the Hammerstein Ballroom for ECW, like it kept them to a certain level, but it did give them a home, which like you can argue about or whatever else it is. But again, like it's one of those things of saying, but yeah, it did limit them and that sort of thing. So again, like if you're looking for, if you're thinking or whatever about like, what would you say, like the way that you're growing the company, this is like a part of that, you know what I mean? Or this is part of just like, well, we're trying to make as many partnerships or whatever else it is, and we're trying to make sure that WWE or AEW or whoever else doesn't get those partnerships and whatnot, so that we at least have something, because otherwise, like, what are we gonna do? We're like, all the talent's gonna be, or all the partnerships that there are gonna be AEW or WWE, and we're gonna be left out in the cold. So I can understand from that perspective, but like just a partnership or just a somewhat of a working relationship of some sort, yeah, sure, that's fine, that's different. But just saying, hey, you're our developmental league, I really don't think that that's going to work. Because again, you shouldn't be fussy. You shouldn't be too picky. Like, I don't know how many Ohio wrestlers or Ohio Valley wrestlers are going to be good for you. Like, some of them might be, absolutely. But then if you don't, like if AEW does have some of these sort of similar deals and you can't get a certain talent, or WWE has some of these deals, whatever, same thing, then it is what it is. But like, what can you do? You can't do anything about that. You just have to grin and say, okay, well, that is what it is. We would have been interested in that talent, but would they have been interested in us? Like, we don't know, so we can't really figure it out. So we've got to just try to make whatever things we can work. And I don't know how you really go about that, because it's like realistically, to make OVW into a proper developmental league for you, then you need to be like, okay, let's set it up so that it is basically a developmental league. You know, it needs to have like the guys that and gals that it needs to be successful. It needs a bunch of young talent. It needs a whole bunch of like current crop talent. It needs a whole bunch of like veterans talent that people are gonna tune in and again, a TV deal. And are we gonna pay for that? No, we shouldn't be paying for that. Like, that's the thing. How much like money are you gonna have to sink into this like deal? Because like the bigger company usually has to sink more money into these smaller companies to make like the whole thing work. Because just again, those small, like OVW, I can't remember when they first started, but they started back in like the mid 2000s, bro. They started probably around the same time that TNA actually started. You know what I mean? Roughly. I don't know. So they've been probably around each other basically for the last like 20, 25 years or whatever it's been. So again, just saying, hey, you know, like we might work together, we might have partnerships, we might have like working relationships, or we might like not just take talent from you, but like, you know, we might send talent your way. I mean, like, that's up to the talent at the end of the day, in a sense. Like, talent do a lot of their own like bookings and a lot of their own stuff, but then you could be like saying, oh well, this means that the talent don't really have to do that. But what if the talent don't want to work there? You know what I mean? If you say, hey, we don't think you're ready to be in TNA, go to OVW, and they're like, well, I don't want to go to OVW or whatever, I don't want to be there, and that sort of thing. So then you're like almost between a rock and a hard place, or if they have heat with the booker or whatever, somebody there or something, all that sort of stuff. Who knows? I don't know. It's like, well, like I have heat with people there. I don't want to go there. Or again, in my like example where I'm just like saying, well, like if it's 1 week or if it's for a certain match or for something else, maybe it's a bit different. But if you're saying to me, hey, we appreciate what you're doing, but we don't see it in you and we don't have anything for you right now, okay, then cut me from your contract. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't see it in me and you say we haven't got anything for you, well, you know what? I'll try my luck in WWE. I'll try my luck in AEW. I'll try my luck somewhere else. You know what I mean? If that's your attitude to just being like, oh, we don't know what to do with all these talent, is to send them somewhere else, then that's your problem. You should be pulling your thumb out and saying, okay, what are our ideas for this person or these people or whatever else it is? You know? And again, you, like I said so many times before, you need to get some of these older and already established talent out of the way more so, and give some of the more younger and newer talent more of that spotlight. Because again, like Eddie Edwards and Moose and the Hardys and guys like that can't keep carrying the company forever. And even now, they, like, a lot of them can't, like the Hardys can't really carry it as well as what they should, or as well as what we need. So again, like, at least from a promotional standpoint they can, but not in ring they can't. But, you know, so again, this is where we're at. We need to develop our new, young, and current talent. We can't just say, well, they're not good enough or they're not ready. Well, that's our own fault for not going, okay, let's push them harder. The harder we push them, the better off they'll be. You know what I mean? So it's not just a case of saying, oh, well, that's their own fault for not getting over or whatever. You know, well, have we actually tried to do anything with them, especially under the last administration in the last year, and especially like considering that we're potentially getting a new administration in the next couple of weeks. So you can't just say, well, they haven't gotten over, but you haven't used them. So how can they get over if you're not using them? You know what I mean? So yeah, there's a whole lot going on there where it's like, I don't know what some of the decision making is or whatever, and who was behind some of that, and I hope that it does turn around, it does become better. But yeah, I don't think much of that. But this other stuff, the H&M and the other deals, at least like those are positives, I think. And like, again, I am not huge into a lot of that stuff, but like, it will help the company and will bring in more money and more ad revenue and more stuff. So it's just positive for the company. So even if I don't fully understand or agree with it, or it makes sense to me or whatever, if this OVW stuff turns out to be real or whatever and whatnot, and it helps the company, sure, I don't care. You know, like, at the end of the day, like, again, like I say, I'm not beholden to TNA at all, and no one should be beholden to any company or anything. In a sense, you should be saying, okay, this is what I want to see. You know, okay, show it to me. Show me what you can do. Not just, well, we've got this old act. Yeah, that's cool, but what have you got for tomorrow, for next week, for next year, for when those guys are gone? You know, so yeah. But anyway, guys, that is pretty much it for this one. Hope you've enjoyed, and hope you join me again in another one.